Today we are checking out a new American company, Chapman Lake Knives. Owned by two brothers, it's a small family-owned business out of Bloomington, Indiana. The company is a subsidiary of Chapman Lake Instruments that produce orthopedic implants and surgical tools and blades. The lead designer has a background in aerospace engineering. Combined with the company's surgical blade capability, they set out to create American-made high-performance knives. When ordering their knives, you get to choose from many different color options to fit your style. From the titanium hardware, which you can choose just about any color option, along with the titanium handles. You can choose left or right hand carry, and the blades are using 20 CV super steel heat treated at 61 HRC. So what makes this thing so unique and special? So one thing, the look. The look is very unique. You're never going to mistake this for another knife. I like that it's different. Another thing is the hardware is some of the best quality hardware I've ever experienced. And when you've taken apart so many knives and dealt with so many knives, it's those little details that really stand out to you. And they have T10 hardware all the way around, so not T6s, not even T8s, T10 hardware, which makes it very robust. And the way the hardware is machined, it's machined to such a precision level. Like I said, it stands out like on an extreme level compared to a lot of other companies' hardware. Very good quality hardware. Then when you take the scales off, let's talk about what's on the inside. Now you can see this thing is extremely unique when taken apart. So you have two sets of giant roller bearings. So it's basically little rollers inside of a washer. Then also there is inside the blade, inside the pivot of the blade, you have another set of bearings. So you have three sets of bearings, or one on each side and then one in the middle, which is really unique. You don't see this type of bearings or this type of pivot system anywhere else. You know, maybe Shiro-Goroff, there might be a couple other companies, but for the most part it's not typical. Typical is just one little set of bearings on each side that roll between the blade and the handle. You can see how this spins right there, and the pivot goes right inside there. So the pivot fits right inside there, and then the bearings roll over the outside, separating the handle. So you have the roller bearings separating the blade from the handle, and then these bearings rolling on the pivot. Very, very unique, which makes incredible action. Now, after seeing everything on the inside, let's talk about the action, because we see how what's inside the pivot and how the bearings work. Look at this action. So you have incredible deployment. So it has a nice stout detent, nice strong detent. Then you look at the flipper tab, how high it is relative to the center of the pivot, and you can just see how much leverage you have. Even just flipping it like this, slowly doing it, look at how far the blade goes before the flipper tab's inside the handle. So that's how much lift you have on the blade already. So this knife would deploy rapidly without a detent, you know, just from momentum, but it does have a good detent. Then you have the thumb studs, which are very grippy, and they are a little bit low. However, for the reverse flick, they land in an exact spot that I want it to. Very, very snappy. And like I said, the reverse flick is right there, right where my middle finger lands. Now, as far as the thumb goes, I do have to hold it down and pull it down a little bit in order to reach the thumb stud, but it's fine. It's not dissatisfying or anything. You just have to go a little bit lower. You do feel the flipper tab coming back and around, pushing and hitting your finger from time to time, and it does make you adjust a little bit, but it's not a big deal. It's not painful or anything. It's just something you notice, and you know, and then you just change your grip accordingly and deploy it accordingly. And it's very easy, very rapid deployment. And then to close, when you push the button, the knife completely drops, and it almost has a little bit of a unique drop to it. It's not like everything you experience. A lot of knives, when you push the button, they just kind of guillotine drop. This has a little bit more of a controlled drop, and it's very satisfying. Not that I can't guillotine drop it, because I could just hold the button and swing it forward, but if I just let it drop on its own, it kind of slowly drops in a nice controlled way. Then it has a nice unique sound, a very unique sound. I really like the sound of it. It has nice acoustics. So all in all, the action is really good, especially with how much leverage you have in this flipper tab. I mean, this thing snaps out there with authority, and you can easily close it with the button. Now, the button is inset. You're not going to accidentally press it in any way. You do have to intentionally push it and push it in deep for it to close. So you're not going to accidentally unlock it, you know, with your fingers or anything like that by squeezing it or nothing. So that's really nice. So when you get a good close look of this knife, the satin finish on the blade is gorgeous. Gorgeous satin finish. It looks really good. And then the edge, this is one of the best quality edges I've ever seen on a knife. Now, I'm not saying it's the sharpest, but it's the most consistent from one side to the other. It's the same angle all the way across, and it meets up at the tip and has a perfect tip. In most cases, one side or the other is bigger on most tips. Like 99.9% of all knives are uneven at the tip. This is very, very even, very consistent from one side to the other. And then with the two-tone satin and stonewashed finish on the blade, it has a gorgeous look to it. It looks like, you know, it has some really good finishing work. Now, as far as the handle goes and ergonomics, the ergonomics are really good. You want to do mostly a trigger pull over the flipper tab. If you choke back behind the flipper tab, you're a little bit far away from the edge. You can absolutely do it, and it is pretty comfortable, but I find it more comfortable to kind of grip around the flipper tab and do the trigger pull. Pinch grips are going to be just fine. You can reverse grip it, but the flipper tab's probably going to get in the way, but you can do it if you need to. You can get by with it. As far as the little details go on the handle, like we already talked about, the hardware is exceptional. Very, very good quality hardware. Then the titanium almost has like a brushed finish on the handle and these chamfered areas. And I love that the color combinations you can go with. Basically any color combination you want. I've seen some people two-tone them, where one side is one color and the other side has other colors, or, you know, maybe different colored hardware or whatever. So you can basically make it your own, which is really nice. So basically it's good for any flavor. Whatever your flavor is, you can kind of get. Now let's talk about some negatives really quick, because I do have a couple little negatives. One is I don't like that it doesn't have a stop pin. I would prefer, instead of it hitting the titanium as the stop pin right here, because this would be the stop pin hitting right there, I would prefer to have a steel pin going across right there. That way, if it ever gets up and down play, you can replace the pin to a little bit of a larger size, and it will prevent that. It also would make stronger lockup, because I do have a little bit of up and down. It's very minimal, very, very minimal, no side to side. And if there is, it's very, very minimal as well. I think I mostly just feel the tiny, tiny bit of up and down, because it does feel pretty solid side to side. But, you know, I think that it would be stronger, or sorry, not stronger, more solid and a little bit less up and down, or if not no up and down, if there was a stop pin in there, because it would allow the pressure to be on the stop pin to the plunge, because it does have the plunge and then it does have this titanium part, but I think it would just make it a little bit tighter in there if it had a stop pin. Not that big of a deal. I don't think it's weak in any way, and I don't think, you know, it's like it's going to fail or anything like that. I just feel that little tiny bit of up and down, and I think that that would be a good way to prevent that. And then also, you know, the titanium getting hit by the hardened steel, it would make sense to put hardened steel right there for it to have the contact when it deploys, you know, instead of hitting the titanium. Now the next thing is a very, very tiny, tiny nitpick, but the swedge on the top is a little bit uneven from one side to the other. One's a little bit earlier, one goes back a little bit farther. Not that big of a deal. It's not gonna make anything better or worse. You know, it's just a visual thing, and to be honest, it's still very well done. It's a beautiful swedge. It's just slightly uneven from one side to the other. And the last thing is the clip is very snug up in this area when you put it in the pocket with my thick jeans. Now, with my regular jeans or with my jeans that are not as thick pocketed, or you know, where the seams of the pocket are not that thick, it goes in and out just fine. But as far as my really thick ones go, it gets a little bit too tight and I can't get it all the way in. So, you know, is it that big of a deal? If you have really thick jeans, it is. But I would say that if they just raised it up slightly, it would fit just fine. I also would prefer a little bit better ramp. Now, it's not that big of a deal. It goes in and out of the pocket smoothly. It's not going to tear your pockets up in any way, shape, or form. So I want to make that clear. I just would prefer just a little bit tiny more of a ramp, a little bit better of a ramp, so it, you know, just goes in and out effortlessly, and you know, maybe just slightly taller. But like I said, this is small nitpicks. It works just fine. It's not that big of a deal. On 99% of jeans, it's going to slide in and out just fine, and there's plenty of room underneath there. But as far as really thick pockets go, it's going to be very snug. So all in all, I gotta say, I am impressed. I am very impressed. Now, I'm not saying this is the most ergonomic knife or anything like that. In fact, you know, it might take a little getting used to as far as the ergos go. And, you know, the look of it, it's either your style or not, but you can't deny that it's not unique, that it looks like everything else out there. It's definitely unique and has its own style, and you'll never mistake it for another knife, which is very difficult these days to do because there are so many knives out there. It's difficult to create a design that's unique to itself. And then it's made in the USA. You gotta love that. You gotta love it's USA made. And then the bearing system that they're using, I don't know of any other company in the USA that uses this bearing system, so that's very impressive. And then when you look at the fact that you can have it left or right hand carry, meaning the clip can be on the other side if that's the way you want it, the hardware and the color options you have, you can kind of make it your own and make it your own flavor. I love that, man. And then the precision and the build quality, it is all there, man. This is really, really well done. Now, I have not tested it, meaning like I haven't done steel testings or, you know, checked how their heat treat is or anything like that. I haven't sharpened it or nothing like that. So I don't want to make it seem like I have. I have not tested this yet to that level. However, as far as first impressions go, I'm impressed. Until next time.